All right, so are you ready to dive into something really cool? We're going to get deep dive into the year of the horse in the Chinese zodiac.
Oh, yeah. I always love talking about this one. There's always something new to learn.
I know, right? We've got Zodiac Fusion as our guide today. And you know what I'm most interested in? I want to get into like the core of what makes horse people who they are, like all those strengths, weaknesses, how they connect with other people.
It's really fascinating to take such an old system and apply it to like real personalities and relationships.
Totally. So, Zodiac Fusion describes people born in the year of the horse as energetic, independent, adventurous. I love that they actually call them natural adventurers.
It's so true, though. I mean, even just thinking about a horse, you get that feeling of freedom and wanting to explore. It makes you wonder if people born under this sign feel the same way.
That's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm a little biased, but it seems like I've met a lot of horse people who end up in careers that let them like live out that adventurous side.
Oh, for sure. Think about jobs that involve traveling a lot, or maybe jobs where things are constantly changing, or even just jobs where they get to be independent and do their own thing. I bet you could find a lot of horse people doing stuff like freelance photography or international business or even scientific research.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of how those personality traits actually show up in the real world, uh, Zodiac Fusion also talks about strengths and weaknesses. So they say horses are known for like having this infectious enthusiasm, which, yeah, I can totally see. And they're supposed to be like amazing problem solvers.
Right. And this is where thinking about the horse as a symbol gets really interesting. So horses, they're incredibly resourceful, right? They're able to figure out how to deal with all kinds of tough situations. And in a similar way, people born in the year of the horse are often really good at sizing up a situation and coming up with creative solutions.
So basically, if you need a problem solved, get yourself a horse person on your team. But, every coin has two sides, right? Zodiac Fusion also mentions that impulsivity can be a weakness, which makes me think back to that whole adventurous spirit thing.
Exactly, because that impulsiveness, it's like a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can be a really good thing because it leads to spontaneity and a willingness to just go for it. But on the flip side, it can make it tough to focus on one thing at a time or to really see commitments through, especially when it comes to work and stuff.
Okay, so imagine this. You're a manager, and you have this incredibly talented, high-energy horse person on your team. Super smart, full of ideas. But then you realize that they have a hard time, finishing one project before jumping to the next. Like, what's the best way to handle that as a manager?
Well, that's where it's super helpful to understand those natural tendencies. It's not about trying to stifle their energy, it's more about finding ways to work with it. Like maybe you give them projects where there's a lot of variety, or maybe you give them more freedom to work the way they want.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to put a horse in a stable and expect it to thrive, right?
Exactly. They need to run free to explore and try different things. Of course, some structure is important, but you have to balance it out with freedom and letting them do their own thing.
And here's where it gets even cooler. Zodiac Fusion says it's not just about the year you're born in, like just being a horse. It also matters which Chinese element goes with your birth year, too.
Yeah, it gets way more interesting that way. Like you're not just a horse, you're an earth horse or a fire horse or whatever. And that changes things up.
Right. So are you saying that each element kind of mixes in with the horse personality to create something totally unique?
That's the idea. Okay, so let's say you have a fire horse, someone born in 1966 or 2026. Fire is super passionate, intense, like a pioneer, right? Mix that with how much energy and drive horses already have, and whoa, you've got a powerful personality.
Wool is right. Just from that, I can already imagine a fire horse being some entrepreneur, someone who just like charges ahead and makes their own way.
Absolutely. They aren't afraid to take chances, go after what they want, and you always know it when they're excited about something. A lot of times they end up as leaders or in creative fields where they can really go wild. High pressure, fast moving jobs, that's their thing.
So cool how each element adds this whole other dimension.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we go too deep into fire horses, Zodiac Fusion also gets into compatibility. They say horses and tigers together, that's like a power couple, apparently.
It definitely has potential. Both signs are known for being adventurous, loving life, and all that passion. It's a recipe for a dynamic, exciting relationship.
I can see it. Two people who are always down to try something new, travel to new places. I feel like that relationship would never be boring.
You got it. And usually there's a ton of respect and admiration between them too. Tigers love how optimistic horses are, how much they enjoy life. And horses, they dig the tiger's courage and how charismatic they are. It's a good combo.
But like, nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah.
What could go wrong for a horse and tire couple? Like, where would they clash?
Well, remember we were talking about how horses can be impulsive? That can be hard on a tiger who needs their independence and who can be a little possessive sometimes.
Oh, so there's a push and pull there. The horse wants to run free, and the tiger's like, not so fast.
Pretty much. It takes a lot of good communication and compromise to make it work. They got to figure out how to let each other have freedom while still being a strong couple.
Finding that balance between being individuals and adventuring together.
You nailed it. They have to be able to support each other's growth without holding each other back.
Now, Zodiac Fusion did mention a few pairings that are supposedly harder for horses. I think they said something about rats, oxen, and roosters. Should we, give our listeners a heads up about those?
Ooh, we can do that. Just remember, it doesn't mean those couples are doomed or anything. It just means they might need to put in a little extra effort to understand each other.
It's like knowing where the potholes are on your road trip so you don't drive right into them.
Okay, let's pick one. How about horse and ox? What's tough about that one?
Okay, so at their core, horses are all about freedom, doing things on the fly, always moving and changing. That's what makes them feel alive. Oxen, though, totally different. They like things stable, predictable. They're grounded, steady. So it's like, we've got a free spirit and a homebody. I could see how that would cause some bumps in the road.
Definitely. It's like if they're planning a vacation, the horse might want to just book a flight last minute and see what happens. The ox would probably want to have everything planned out months in advance.
Huh. Yeah, or even just thinking about careers. A horse might change jobs every couple years, always looking for something new and exciting. An ox would much rather have one job for a long time, somewhere they feel comfortable and secure.
Exactly. But again, it's not that it can't work, it's that they have to understand and accept those differences. The horse's need to explore doesn't mean they don't care about the ox's need for stability and vice versa.
It's about appreciating those differences, for sure. And I feel like this is where those birth charts with the elements and Western signs come in to give even more details. Like, we've got this whole system for understanding relationships now.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Zodiac Fusion mentions that when you add in the Western Zodiac on top of everything else, it gets even more specific. I feel like we need a whole other deep dive just for that.
Oh, tell me about it. But yeah, you're right. We got to wrap things up for our listeners today. So think of it this way. The Chinese zodiac is like the first layer, right? It gives you those big, basic personality traits. Then you add in the element, and that's like throwing in some color and texture. And then the Western sign. That's where you get all those little quirks and unique things that make you, you.
Okay, I'm with you. So let's say we take the horse personality and we mix in the metal element. And then for the Western sign, let's go with a Gemini. Yeah, chatty, quick-witted. What do we get when we put all that together?
Now you're thinking. Metal horses, they're usually super independent and resourceful, right? They go after what they want, and they have a strong sense of what's right and wrong. Now, bring in those Gemini traits. Suddenly you have someone who's not just driven, but they can talk their way into or out of anything. They're persuasive. They know how to use words.
Oh, I can see it. We've got a charismatic leader, a tough negotiator, maybe even a writer who changes the world with their words. I'm seeing how this all fits together now. This has been so much fun. It makes me want to figure out everyone I know's sign and element.
It's hard to resist, right? But it's good to remember these systems. They're more like guides than rules. It's more about seeing how those personality types actually show up in real people, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're all complicated and messy in our own ways.
So true. This isn't about putting people in boxes. Okay, so as we finish up our deep dive into the year of the horse, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think it's the importance of knowing yourself. It doesn't matter if you're a horse or you love a horse, just understanding those strengths and those tendencies that come naturally that can help you have better relationships, make smarter choices about your work, and honestly just feel more comfortable with who you are.
That's a great takeaway. It's like Zodiac Fusion has given us this whole new way to see ourselves and the people around us. Thanks so much for being here. This has been a wild ride. And for everyone listening, if you want to learn more, definitely go check out Zodiac Fusion. Until next time, stay curious.